have to put your mic on.
Oh, awesome. There you go. Sorry, I
There
didn't know
we
if
go.
mine was on or not.
It's working.
Awesome. All
All
right,
right,
guys.
what's going
Wednesday
on, you
night.
guys?
How's everyone doing?
Doing good.
All
Good,
right.
good.
We have a few minutes. I figure we'll just kind of chill for a minute until other people
See here,
start coming
sorry.
in. Hope they do anyway.
1 second. Oh,
Oh,
there we
yeah,
go.
no problem.
All right. So I figure we just kind of chill for a minute and let some other people come in before we start. Looks like we got Sleeping Comics, Informant, Dr. Prophet. How we doing, guys?
Very good. What's up, guys?
I'm sleeping. Go ahead and request the mic. Dr. Prophet, how you doing, sir? Let's just make sure we can hear everybody. Say something. Dr. Prophet, you're going to want to go ahead and request the microphone.
Whoops.
Same for you,
There we
Sleeping,
go. There we go.
and Steven. Everybody in here, go ahead and request the microphone.
There we go. Everyone's requesting. Looks like everyone's in here now.
All right, Dr. Prophet, I think your
Yeah, he
mic's
can
off.
speak now.
You hear me well, guys?
Yes,
Yep,
there we
There
go.
we go.
Sounds good.
All right, how we doing?
All right,
Sleeping. You, say something, Sleeping.
I'm too intimidated to be in the same space as Dr. Prophet. And
Right?
That's funny.
Sleeping, how are you doing?
Yeah, Sleeping, you're kind of a celebrity yourself, my friend. I'm a little
Yeah.
intimidated by you, sir.
Oh no. If only you've met me in person, you'd know. I can barely speak English.
No, I hear you. All right, we
That's
got some
not
people
true.
starting to come in. Pretty excited about tonight. We got a pretty cool panel guest going on. Really, I have Venus to thank for that. Thank you for getting everybody, Venus.
Yeah, of course, you guys. I'm super excited to have you all here and just have this awesome discussion.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
pretty
thanks for
excited
the
about
invite.
tonight.
Of
Yeah.
course.
Dr. Prophet, I know you have some big news coming down. When are you guys going to be live?
You mean live, yeah, on the 28th of April. So we have the full launch of the marketplace.
Okay.
So it's going to be exciting. Yeah.
The 20th of April?
28th.
28th.
yeah.
Okay, gotcha. And that's when you're going to be able to buy NFT with Omi?
Yeah, I mean, we had a test running for quite a while, but with limited IP. And now all the IP is coming. So that's the big news.
Gotcha. Well, I'll have you explain that a little bit further. We'll wait till some more people come in.
Mhm.
And Sleeping, I know you have some stuff you have to do later. Just let us know when you have to go. Informant,
Okay,
how are
great.
you, sir?
Thanks.
I'm doing good. Thanks
Good.
again for having me on here. I'm
Yeah,
kind of excited.
course. Yeah, of course. Let's see.
And
So-
everyone else who are all the listeners, if you guys don't mind just going ahead and giving us all a follow, that'd be awesome if you're not already.
Absolutely. Well, while we're waiting for people, I'd love to hear maybe some of your kind of your background with Veve, how long you've been with Veve, what your first drop was. Let's start with you, Sleeping. What was your very first drop with Veve? You with us, Sleeping Comics?
Oh, sorry. I was answering questions that people are DMing me, so I was trying to keep up with it all.
Yeah.
My first
No
one was
problem.
a comic. I bought Amazing Spider-Man #1.
That was my first comic as well. That was my very first drop as well. Yep.
Sadly, I don't own a real one in the real world, but fun to have one on the Veve app.
Yeah, you're a physical collector as well. You got some pretty cool stuff though.
Yeah, I have some comics in the real world as well, right?
What's your favorite comic that you have?
Oh, it's like trying to ask what's your favorite kid if you have multiple kids. Or I could say I don't like any of them, maybe. No. I will say the one that is probably the one I was proudest of buying is my Amazing Fantasy 15, which is the first appearance of Spider-Man.
Gotcha. Yeah, I have that on Veve. So do you stack stuff on Veve? Do you have like a bunch of each comic?
Yeah, I kind of take the same types of kind of methodologies I might have in the real world. So if it's a comic that I think is valuable and is at the right price, definitely I try and stack them. So a lot of the ones that I like are kind of the more Grail comics, like Amazing Fantasy 15 or Iron Tales of Suspense 39, which is the first appearance of Iron Man. Or there's a number of good ones that I think are very stackable.
Gotcha. What about you, Inform Man? What was your first Veve drop?
Yeah, so it was Golden Moments. I did the
Golden
C3PO, R2D2, and I didn't get it actually on the drop. I got it on a rebound. I had no clue what I was doing. I just kept on hitting the button, and eventually I got it. So
Yeah,
it was pretty exciting.
That reminds me of those old days when you didn't think you were going to get it, and you would set your alarm for the drop, and then you would just pray you got it, and then maybe spend the next 30 minutes to an hour just trying as hard as you can to get the drop.
Exactly. I mean, I learned so much from that time. I learned how to, like, direct connect my modem to my phone, and all, I learned all the tricks to win the drops. But yeah, that was my first drop. I was blown away. It was actually one of my first dates with my wife. She happened to come over right during the drop. So I'm like, hold on a second while I go for this. And I got lucky and got the C3PO. So yeah, very excited. It was an exciting time. Those are really, really good times.
That was definitely one of my best flips. Was that golden moment? What's going on, Kyle? I see you in the room. Go ahead and request the mic, my friend.
Well, wait a minute. You did a Veve drop with her, and does she still talk to you?
She married me.
His
Can you believe
wife.
that?
He said wife.
Oh my lord!
Now she's not happy with all the content and stuff I do. So it takes so much time. But yes,
It's
she is
Kyle
still with me.
who's coming on. Here's Kyle. He's on now.
Kyle Wilson, what's going on, my friend?
Oh man, I'm just getting back home from a trip with a buddy of mine that works here in the space. So that was nice, and I also got back from kind of vacation as well. But yeah, going good here. How are you guys?
Good, man. So we're asking everybody, what was your first Veve drop?
My first Veve drop, man. Oh gosh, I want to say. I mean, I think it had to be like one of the Batmans. It's been so long that I actually can't remember. That's crazy. But
the Batmans were just a little bit before my time. Mine and Sleepin' Comics, we had the same first drop, which was Amazing Spider-Man #1.
oh well, that's a good one.
Yeah, the Batmans were just a little. Those were already out of my league when I came in. They were already a little too expensive.
Which rarity did you guys get on that drop?
On the Amazing Spider-Man.
Yeah.
On that one, I just got.
I got the common.
Yeah, me too. I was pretty much. I got all the comments for everybody else to get the rare ones.
I hear you.
The very first secret rare comic that I got was the Spider-Man. It was Spider-Man No More. That was the very first secret rare I got. What was the first secret rare that you got, Kyle?
Sorry, say that again.
What was your first secret rare that you got on a drop?
Oh my gosh. Again, it's been so long.
It has.
I feel like it was like a Ghostbuster like one.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I'll have to like circle back.
Yeah, I'm more of a comic collector than the collectibles themselves. What about you, Dr. Prophet? Do you remember your first Veve drop?
Yeah. So back then, I think my cake day is March 2021, and I remember not buying in the store, but I did some weird eBay transactions because the store was empty, and there were eBay articles like the Veve NFTs, and then you could basically wire someone money,
Right.
and they would send you a collectible. I think that was later the Telegram groups, right? And in Europe, we're not so fortunate, right? So we wouldn't get any significant drop. I think the first significant drop that I got was actually Golden Moment. I think it was, which one was it? could have been this R2D2 or C3PO. Like one of the golden moments I was able to mint by accident, and I think I was like a half a year just unsuccessful, basically.
Yeah, I remember those first days. It was a lot of unsuccessful. But so I know they used to have people buying gems on the aftermarket too. Were they selling gems on eBay?
I don't remember. I was just buying the collectibles. The gem market was more on Telegram, as far as I remember me acting on it.
Gotcha. And I see you, Dr. Strange. Go ahead and request the mic, my friend. So, all right. So, first question that I have for everybody, we'll kind of just address some of the FUD in
Here's
the
Dr.
room
Strange is on. Sorry, guys.
because I do want this to be positive. I want it to be a positive space, but I just want to kind of get some of the questions out of the way that I think are negative for Vive. I guess my first question will be, how important do you think actual ownership is to the Vive app? How important do you think that is, Kyle?
Oh, it came at me with the jugular, huh? Jugular question. Yeah, ownership is like obviously one of those like hot button questions that everybody has a different opinion on, right? Like I think for me as like if I have a secret rare, like in my mind, like I would love to have it in my ledger, right? Like I just throw it in there. It's there. I know it's there. But I'm like, everybody knows me. I'm like I've been in crypto for a while. Like I'm kind of what you would consider probably a crypto power user. But so for me, it's different, right? Like having that self custody is pretty important for me in specific. If it's a secret rare, like now if it's like a common or something like that, like I don't see really a big reason like why I would want to throw it in my ledger. Same thing with crypto, like if I have a large sum of money, that's going in ledger. But if it's not too big of a sum, it's probably going to be my hot wallet. So it's just kind of the same kind of thinking pattern, I guess, along the lines of that. Same with like, money, IRL, large sums are probably going to go in the bank, obviously, for obvious reasons, the security side of it. And I know that like it's going to be in the bank at the end of the day.
I hear you.
And then small lump sums or small sums, that'll be in my pocket. But yeah, that's just kind of my thinking. Obviously, I don't think everybody necessarily agrees. I think we come to find out that in the community, which is okay. Everybody has a different opinion.
Yeah, I'd like to ask everybody that question. What about you, Sleeping Comics? What do you think ownership? How important do you think that is?
I mean, I think it's really important. It's one of the kind of core tenets of Web3, right? And but that doesn't mean that it has to happen right now. I think the ecosystem is always evolving, and so I think we just got. Obviously, this is not a situation that Veve has right now. I think it's certainly potentially something they would kind of adapt in the future. And we kind of all know, I think most of the people in this room especially kind of know the pros and cons of kind of having an open or closed ecosystem. I'm okay with where they're at right now, but I think in the end, eventually, that kind of ownership I think is going to be probably pretty key. But so many other pieces of the puzzle from a kind of ecosystem, I think have to be built, and really even people's understanding, kind of, and the audience's understanding of it. And I'm not talking about people in this room. I'm talking about the greater population. They're just ill-prepared to understand any of it yet. So we'll see what happens.
I see what you mean. What about you, Informant? How do you look at ownership on the Veve app?
Uh-oh. I'm going to get in trouble here. So I'm one of these guys who believes that, like, I understand Kyle and Sleeping, especially I know Kyle's really big into the crypto space and NFTs and ownership, which makes sense. That is complete Web3. I'm more like, I like the centralized system. I like it because I think that's more geared towards the masses and maybe not the crypto people. So for me, I look at this as the bigger picture. And I think a lot of people are worried about they're going to get their stuff lost. They're going to make a mistake. Somebody like Kyle or even Sleeping or other people I can see here probably don't have any problems. They're not going to have any problems like messing up But I think there are a lot of new people to this space that could mess up. So I like the centralized system. I kind of wish there was a way we could, for instance, lock our NFTs. So if you did take ownership of them, then you wouldn't have to worry about losing them. Don't even know that's a possibility. But for me, it doesn't matter. Like, that was never a big thing for me, but I completely understand most of the crypto people want that, and I understand it. Just for me, I believe if you want the masses to come in, you got to have a system that is secure, and NFTs and even crypto aren't quite there yet, but I do believe they will get there. And maybe at that point, that's when this should happen. But just
Yeah.
my opinion.
I see your point on that. That's why I kind of think that there should be both options. If you want to keep it on the app, you can. If you want to take it off, you can as well, because I do see your point on that. And what about you, Dr. Strange? What do you think about that, my friend? You with us?
What's up, everybody?
Yeah, he just said.
So the
Well, I
question
had
is,
mixed
yeah.
feelings and emotions on that.
All right, go ahead.
Kind of err on the side of agreeing with BE. I don't know if I'm getting a little feedback or not, but
Just a little. It's all right. We
I
I
can
don't
think you
hear
need a
it.
mixture. Okay, cool. I think you need a mixture of everything, right? Because you're kind of trying to ingratiate yourself to multiple crowds. So if I had to add all of these things into a pot, turning it on high heat, boil it up, let it, boil down to a fine thing at the bottom of the pot, and I add that to a filter and I sift that out, what I'm left with is what I guess can relate to and care about, right? So I come from a very just real world perspective. I don't come from a Web3 crypto NFT world. I come from a very physical, hand to hand type of sales type of experience, right? So for me, if we're just talking about, let's say, trying to sell a comic, whether I collected it years ago and held it a million years and had it graded or didn't have it graded, but I decide I want to sell it. Like, you got so much tomfoolery going on with eBay and seller fees and all of this stuff. Like, you got platforms favoring buyers, and they could buy something from you and say you never sent it and do all this stuff. And you could, like, when you go from that to being able to go for a drop, you hit an ultra rare, Marvel Comics 1, whatever it is, and you sell that in seconds, you just list it, it's sitting there, and then you make that type of, like, I just look at it as like, well, to me, what exactly is ownership? Because I just owned it enough to make $10,000 real quick, or whatever it is I made. So I must have
you're
owned
talking
it
about
enough to be able to
flipping.
do that. So for me, that's enough ownership. But at the same time, I got to understand the space that I'm playing in. And this is a not so secure space. So when I came into the space and was looking at the NFT community and crypto and all this stuff, I seen people making lots of money, but then I seen people getting their wallets drained. People that were veterans, have been around years before me, and they're telling me all these security things I'm supposed to do, but yet there was still always something new they weren't aware of, and they got caught up in it. So it's like, what chance do I have? Zero. You know what I'm saying? And then between that, the whole losing your money, transferring crypto to wallets and all of this stuff, I just kind of stayed with anything that was simple. Anything that I could whip my credit card out on and buy, I was with it pretty much, as long as it was a decent product that resonated with me. So that's
Right, I
why
think
I got into a project like Top Shot and Veve. I didn't find Veve through Omi because I wasn't in crypto.
It sounds like
So
you kind of like to
all
flip.
of these,
You're more of a
yeah, and
flipper.
all of these NFT projects, I would look at them and say they cool, but why is nobody asking why the craftsmen, like me, my people, my immediate friends were all real artists. So to think I'm gonna create something and put it out there and ask somebody to buy it, and nobody even knows who the team is, nobody knows who drew it, no nothing, just always came off weird to me. So I never understood why people would flock to a project or something that just looked cool, doesn't do anything, it's not 3D. Okay, I could sell it here, there, and everywhere, but if nobody wants it, what does it matter?
I think
So
that kind of
for me, I just lean towards license.
Yeah, I
piece
hear
that
you.
resonated with me. And that was
I
it.
hear
You
you.
know.
That kind of it really kind of moves into my next question as far as whether you look at Vive as a collecting app where you're going to buy and collect and just kind of have fun, or are you looking at Vive as a money maker where you're going to, flip them and just try to invest in that regard? It sounds like you are kind of more of a flipper. What about you, Kyle? How do you picture Vive? Do you buy and hold, or do you kind of look at it as an investment platform? How do you look at that?
Well, I've collected a very, very long time. I've collected probably the biggest collection I had was Pokemon in terms of like value. I was like a big collector of the season one, first editions that were like flawless. I had them in my binder. So I would say like a little bit of both, right? Because I think naturally as a human being, like you're collecting something valuable, right? It's like worth something. You might not know like the exact worth, but in due time it might be worth a lot. Who knows? But you just like to collect. I think everybody has like that kind of connection to collecting. So like number one for me, it was a little bit of both, right? Like I knew the NFT space was popping off, like things were heating up. And I'm a big trend guy. So like I saw this VD app and I was like, oh my gosh, like you know, who wouldn't want to own like the first Batman on the blockchain? And that's what really sold me in the beginning, right? Because I was like, that's very highly collectible, and that's like a no-brainer. It's like going back to my Pokemon days and understanding like these Pokemon are cool. They might be valuable. I don't know, but and it's the speculation part of it as well that like really makes it exciting. So for me, it was kind of a mixture of things. And yeah, like the values weren't necessarily there yet until like later on, right? So I would say like a mixture of both, and also a healthy like speculative nature to it as well. That's what I would kind of say. That kind of my thought pattern on that.
Gotcha. I see Comics and Crypto is in the room. If you want to request the mic, if you feel like talking, really anybody, if you want to put your 2 cents in, request the mic. But I'll kind of give that same question to you, Sleeping. Do you look at the app as an investor's app where you're going to make some money, or do you just kind of buy and hold?
I'm a lot probably like Kyle. It's some of both. I think some of the stuff is just fun to have, and I think digitally collecting is just going to get bigger and bigger. And so if you have some of the fun, kind of quote unquote holy grails, that's gonna be a lot of fun done in the future. But I'm stacking a lot of them too. So if I'm stacking them, clearly I'm looking at it as in the future I could sell these for a profit. So I'm in both camps.
Gotcha. What about you, Informant?
Yeah, I'm definitely a hybrid. At this point, I'm on house money. I did really well on Vivi, and I definitely have the issue of getting attached to some of the collectibles, which is horrible if you want to invest. And I think the reality is a lot of people in Vivi are there to invest. This whole, I don't think it matters if you're, collectors at heart, if you're there to collect or whatever. I collect and I flip. I haven't really sold too much or like cashed out, but I have before. But yeah, it's definitely, there are things that I have. I collect mints, right? So I collect special mints on certain, collectibles and comics. So I do that. Some of those I know they might be worth something later, and if I was worth enough, I'd probably sell it. There's other things that I probably would never get rid of, no matter what. So it sounds like most people are like that. I'm a hybrid. But I'm not ashamed to want to sell something or look at VV sometimes as an investment and other times just to get stuff for fun and maybe play in the VV-verse or something like that.
And what about you, Dr. Profit? I bet you have some a nice collection going.
Yeah. Yeah, actually I had some interesting thoughts on the topic before, and maybe I can combine it a bit. So for me, the blockchain aspect of collecting is very important. So I've been now in the space 12 years, and when it comes to self-custody, I'm obviously a proponent of self-custody. If you were, for example, to do a thought experiment that Bitcoin would be only available on exchanges and you can send it from exchange to exchange, would it have that value? So not everybody is self-custodying Bitcoin, but the fact that you can do it gives Bitcoin the value, right? So picture it would be just traded on Binance, like it would be worth $1, right? But the fact that you can self-custody makes it worth. And then I would see it like Kyle in general. You can have most of the items in a custodial wallet, but the grails you want to have on your hardware wallet or so. I mean, I also wanted to kind of take this as an opportunity. I think we will be able to have both in the future. On Stacker, we have this wallet where you can log in with your email, and I would consider it also safe when it comes to being hacked. And our users will not even understand that they are doing self-custody. They're doing custody self. The private key is encrypted in a sandbox environment on your phone. It can't be extracted. You can biometrically protect it, and basically all the Stacker users have self-custody without not noticing it. And I think on long term, I would speculate that this will change. And I think all the grails that you can buy on Vivi now with a huge discount, obviously it's an all-time high, is a big opportunity for the future, especially when you believe in three-dimensional collecting. And I think that was always my story when I bought something. I kind of like really believe that in maybe even 5 years' time, it becomes mainstream. And then these glasses will have protocols, and you enter someone's home, and then you can look at this stuff as if it is physical. And I think I was never into physical collecting, and for me, I just want to be. My prediction is that long term it will be very, very relevant what was minted now. But yeah, short term, I was always in for the long game. I didn't look at profits or taking profits. So for me, it was my more long term game. That's kind of my answer.
So go back to what you were saying a minute ago. Kind of explain what you meant when you said that users will have self custody and not even realize it. What do you mean by that?
Yeah. So when you register on Stacker, so we use a provider called Privy. They have a wallet technology where they store the private key on your phone, and it's look. There's to explain it in details, it will take a little while, but technically, all the users of Stacker, if they now hold the OMI token or USDC or ETH, it's protected with your email. You can even additionally protect it. We haven't enabled it with 2FA. So you will feel as if you are on the Vivi app, or you feel like it, but you actually do have self-custody. You can export the private key and get access to these tokens, right? And that's all it is. So you have an interface. It feels like, okay, everything is on the app. I just click the button. I don't have to kind of press the ledger or confirm. It feels like a normal interface, but what you're really doing is when you press, I want to swap whatever USDC to OMI token, you're actually signing a transaction. You send it to Base, and then the transaction gets executed as if you were doing it with a Ledger or Trezor or MetaMask, right? So it's actually this is going to be the trend in the industry. So everyone will become a blockchain user without noticing it, because everything feels like Web 2. And that's what we were focusing on Stacker, that it feels more like Vivi or Web 2, but the technology behind is actually Web 3, and it's self-custody. Yeah.
Gotcha.
I mean, the
That's
difference is
actually
on the Vivi app, if you press a button, you actually hit the API of Vivi, and then you authorize a transaction from A to B, right? So you're actually not interacting directly with the blockchain. On Stacker, in a way, if you do certain transaction, you directly interact with the blockchain. That makes sense.
It does make sense. That's actually what I was going to ask you about, because I know that on the 28th of April, you said we're going to be able to buy NFTs with OMI. I know everybody in here is excited about that. So how is that going to look when you buy the collectible? is it going to appear in your Veve app, or is it going to be?
Yes.
It will. So it'll be on your Veve.
So what you do on Stacker, you connect your Stacker wallet or Stacker account with Veve. And so we know your wallet, right? We know the seller's wallet. And we have a JW token of every user. That's not a technical term. But if you as a seller can authorize us to, let's say, put a listing on the Veve marketplace. So the back end of certain things is still Veve, but it's as secure as if you would do it with the Veve app, because we also require the authentication. So we have a security protocol. So you need basically we need authorization from the user in order to set up a listing or process a transaction, right? So if you buy something, we literally tell kind of the Veve server, now, okay, the transaction happened on base, users exchange token, please send a collectible X from user A to user B. But this only works, everything is authorized with Web2 technology, and Veve kind of checks that if we have the rights of that user, if basically they sign a transaction as well. Not sure if that makes sense, but it's kind of a hybrid. We exchange peer-to-peer crypto, but we still have to use the backend in order to move collectibles from wallet A to wallet B.
Gotcha. Dr. Strange, did you have a question for Dr. Profit? Look like you got your hand up, man.
No, man, my hand was raised when we were still talking the other topics. I was still rolling off of what BE was saying as far as the type of collector or investor or flipper he is, or you kind of asked like a two-part question, because in on one hand you asked like what the app is. You were like, what is the Veve app? Is it a flipping app? Is it investing, or is it collecting? And then you kind of asked like, well, what are you? So in an attempt to answer your last question, it might have, because I mainly was talking about a scenario of going for a drop and selling a collectible for profits, but I wouldn't categorize myself as a flipper for a couple reasons. Just because I started collecting comics, sports cards in the 80s before a lot of, it really wasn't even a place to sell your stuff like that. So looking at comics in real time in the 80s and thinking you were going to make money in 2 or 3 years wasn't a thing yet, but I did have certain mentalities saying like, kind of like BE and other people brought up, Informant, when, you know, Kyle as well, when you think you have something special that could be something down the line, and you're even thinking about the fact that if you only have one, that one could get damaged or something down the line, you do pick up 2 or 3. You know, now, does that make you a flipper? Not necessarily, but kind of like Sleeping was talking about too. Sometimes you're just grabbing things just because you're kind of in a hobby that if you play it a certain way, it can fuel your hobby even further. So it's not that you buy this one hot thing just for yourself, but you're buying it because, you know, you're buying a couple because you're hoping that it goes up in value, you know, and you can sell that later on and then buy other things that you weren't able to get into unless you spent, you know, your hard-earned money from outside places. So you kind of, over time, you know, as things did gain value, you kind of do want to play a game in that sense. But for me personally, I never really, like, if anybody was to even look at my wallet, you know, from day one, when I got on Veve in March of 2021, if I was a flipper, I would have totally not gotten into this project, because when I got on the app, when you hit market, it just had a symbol there and it said market closed till further notice. And when you went to the store, there were no collectibles to buy. So you couldn't participate in any drops. So it wasn't until like a month later, maybe, that I participated in the first drop, which was the DeLorean drop. And even that had issues, you know, but I really liked what I saw. I liked the collectibles. And even before then, I was meeting people through like Twitter just to buy collectibles, like off app deals. You know what I'm saying? I'm buying stuff to people through eBay, and, you know, they're transferring stuff. So if you were to look at my wallet now, probably say like 90% of all the stuff that I've hit on drops. I still have. I still have my original DeLoreans from back then, my Ultraman, Dick Sprang Batmans, and all types of stuff. So I collect more than I sell, and I've probably only cashed out once, and that was out of desperation. I needed some bread, so I sold my coveted Todd McFarlane Batman. At the time, it was maybe September, about 3 and change, and I just vowed to myself I'm getting a Todd back, and I actually bought a Todd again on the Stacker app last month, the first time I used the app, and I had a little, a slippage and things like that going on because, again, I'm not a crypto guy. So I kind of had little hurdles to overcome with understanding, what the fees would be and stuff like that. I was kind of trying to like penny pinch it a little too close. And it's a whole story about, how I still got the Tide off of Stacker. But yeah, I managed to save a couple of dollars at the end of the day, versus buying it at the floor on the Veve app. But yeah, I'm definitely more of a collector than a flipper. But
So what about Omi? You stack some Omi? Are you ready to buy on Stacker?
yeah, see, I'm not really too big on OMI or crypto. Like I said, I never really got into crypto too tough way back in the day. When I did find out about OMI, that was, one of the few things I did, and it was like a million, because I'm based in New York. So in New York, on top of OMI just being tough to get from a United States perspective, then I had to overcome being in New York. So for some people, someone might be in Texas and they'll be like, "Oh, I could just use this exchange. Why don't you just use that?" They let you use it in the U.S. and it's like, yeah, but not in New York. So it was a lot, but yeah. So I had OMI on my like Veve app or whatever you call it. Not much, maybe like 5,000 OMI, or something like that. Something real small, but it's just been sitting there the whole time. And I was also, after I got the Todd, I was also looking into how you can migrate it over. So I was like, let me give it a shot, man. So I just went over there, and I think it might have been like 2 button clicks, maybe 3 tops, but the whole thing was migrated in seconds. So now I have it over there on Stacker, and yeah, it kind of is opening my brain up to getting some in an easier way. Especially it's just not easy, being in New York. So
Yeah, I think that
I
was
think
kind
that's
of
holding a lot of
informant.
people back.
That's what informant was saying. The way that the Veve app is set up now, it's a little bit better for non-crypto people, and I think Dr. Profit is going to be setting it up so that a little bit of everybody can kind of get in there.
Yeah, I'm happy to hear that Dr. Strange has a good experience. There's certain things we will improve. And a no-brainer, or very soon we'll have fiat on-ramp, so where you can buy USDC, and the USDC you can always like swap very easily to with one click to OMI
Yeah.
token.
Yeah, I'm not sure if maybe I'm crazy, but it looked like something was there where I could use my wallet. Maybe, I'm not sure. And I tried doing it, like debit card or whatever, but it didn't work. So
No, it's
I'm not
not
sure.
supported yet.
Okay.
But it will soon get there soon.
Yeah, once you get that going, man, it's over. So
What about you, Kyle? You planning on buying NFT to Omi?
NFT to only
Omi
I'm not sure.
NFT.
I currently I have like not that much Omi at all anymore, but I don't know, it's something I will maybe monitor if things pick up. But it's something I would consider. I mean, if like again things pop off, and I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens, but uh currently I don't know. We'll see if that feature opens up. That would be news to me for sure.
So kind of back to one of my first questions, we were talking about self custody. Let me ask you guys, what do you think the reason that we cannot self custody? I know everybody has their, different opinions on how much that really means, but what do you think the reason that Vive is not letting us self custody? What would you think that reason is? Informant.
I mean, we used to say the IP, but we know that's not true. I'm a Cryptoys ambassador. I know Kyle is too. Comics and Crypto also. They've got self custody. So I don't know. I think it's partially because they I think they see what I see, just kind of the masses, having it a secure system. Um, maybe because they were early with Disney. Disney has some big stuff on there that maybe they want to control. That maybe that is an IP thing. I'm not 100% sure what they feel about it. I mean, it's a really good question. For me, it doesn't matter, but um that excuse that the IPs won't do it is nothing at this point, because we know plenty of other IPs have done it on other platforms. And I don't know what other people think, but they've said that this isn't something that they're going to do right now, and I'm assuming that's not going to be for a while, so I don't even think it matters.
What about
I
you,
hope that
Dr.
answered.
Prophet? You might actually have some, um, just a different perspective. What do you think the reason is?
Um,
For,
Obviously, just it has grown a bit that way. I mean, I have to say, like, if you, for example, look at DC Comics, right? They have sold their IP to anyone that was not on the tree at 3. So, like, obviously, there will be some brands that will be more inclined to not a problem. I think let's put it this way. This thing is in the cards. I think what needs to happen is a fair play environment where you can enforce royalties at the same time, and then I think you can make everyone happy. So we're working on some concepts in for that, but I think it's in the cards in the future. Let's put it this way.
I hear that. What about you, Kyle? You have any opinions on that one?
Yeah. So the going back, well, it was the IP, right? Like, why is it a closed ecosystem? Is that still the question?
Well, yeah. What do you think the reason is that we can't self custody? Why would they? Because it seems to me like a lot of the questions that they would have can be solved with the smart contracts. You can set those
Yeah.
up. So, what would you think the reason that they're doing that?
Yeah, I think a couple of reasons. From a technology standpoint, like it could have been immutable. Yeah, like the IP, like yeah, there's cryptoids, and we even see like Bugatti do like an ordinal, so which is pretty interesting. Which I think some companies should explore that, like a one of one drop model. But anyways, not to get off topic, but yeah, from immutable, like they're moving to ZK EVM and they're like migrating everything over there. It has way more like smart contract, compatibility, and works with Solidity and all that other stuff. So I think like from a tech standpoint, possibly potentially like that could have been a big issue early on. Immutable like was like pretty super beta, and they've come a long way, but they still have a long way to go. But yeah, I've been tracking them from a Web3 gaming perspective pretty closely, and use their passport, which I actually, like I'm 50-50 on the passport, right? Like I hear some people don't like the passport, but I kind of do in a way. I can see potential for it. Now, ZK EVM, they need to work on like some of their onboarding and stuff there too. But yeah, like just going back to that, it could have been that, and the IP might have been a good excuse to use at the time as like why potentially like we couldn't do that, right? And there could have been other reasons too, like dev time, on the back end of developing the app itself, and there's many obstacles, right? You're building a Web3 app, as many people know, isn't necessarily the easiest thing to do all the time, right? Like especially a mobile app, and it has to work in conjunction, with Immutable, for example. So it's gotten probably easier, but again, Immutable moving to ZK EVM could have been like one of the primary factors there. So it's just hard to say without knowing for certainty, right?
I hear you, man. Well, I want to take a minute and just thank everybody for being here. We've actually run a little over. I know some of you had said that you have things you need to do. So I do thank everybody. Thank you, Venus, for getting this show going. Thank you for getting everybody in here. It looks like you got a pretty stacked crowd. We got Foster Hill.
Yes.
We got
Yes.
D1 and Only, Kid Arcade. I know some of you guys didn't get to say anything. If you guys have anything you want to say, request the mic. If
Yeah, it
not,
looks like I actually have two different requests. If you want to just take some other opinions real quick.
let's do it. Yeah.
It looks All right, awesome. So I'm gonna let Ocean on first, and then Stephen D, I'll let you on. Ocean, you're good to go.
What's going on, Ocean?
What's going on? How are y'all?
Very good,
Doing
man.
all right. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, I was trying to get up for a moment, but
Yeah, this is really our first space. It's our first show. We're gonna iron out some of those little kinks. We'll be able to get to you a little quicker.
Sorry, I thought
Which point?
I just want to let everyone answer the questions first. But
Yeah.
yes,
Which
go
point
ahead.
were you
Ocean.
wanting to chime in on?
well, I'm on the other side of this table, I guess. Everybody happy-go-lucky about Veve, and nobody wants to talk about what's really happening. So now I'm up here.
All right, what you got, man? What's really happening?
Well, it's interesting to me right now that as far as I'm concerned, everybody on stage besides Kyle is pretty much paid by this company to play the influencer, and all you're getting is opinions and thoughts of people who have a weight to hold to be on this stage and answer these questions, and it bothers me. There's
So I'm not paid. I have received 0.
I don't agree nothing. I don't believe none of that. So anybody who says they're not paid by Veve except for Kyle, I do not believe.
Well,
Not
let
one
me
of
ask you
y'all.
this. Okay,
I
so
have
you said
absolutely 0.
no, I believe you, Dr. Prophet. I know you have Stacker World, but so let's kind of like delve into that though. So even if they are paid by Veve, what is it that you think that's been said that was incorrect tonight? That was only because they're being paid.
Well, the narrative right now is like with Dr. Prophet that he's just a collector and he saw this this opportunity, but the entire time that he knew that he was going to get the marketplace for Stacker, he's stacking up on assets to hold for himself, not telling anybody about anything, and just
Untrue.
acquiring this stuff. And that's
Untrue.
crazy. Wait, what do you mean? You're
Untrue.
one of the biggest wallets before you even started that.
What
You
do
were
you
the
think?
biggest
Like,
wallet.
No. I think you get like things wrong. So you say
No,
like,
I didn't get
I
things
knew
wrong.
that I'm gonna start Stacker. By the way, I wanted to start it as a social platform. And in that time when I knew that that I'm gonna build a marketplace, you think I stacked collectibles. And that's
If it
basically not true.
if
I had
no
98% of
you
my
stack
collection I
if
have built
Hold
before.
on, let's let
if you
Dr.
So
stack
Prophet explain
collectibles,
it.
you stack collectibles the whole time, but you knew in the background you were going to make
no, I
Stacker.
have
You knew in the
totally
background
slowed
you were going
down.
to make
Have
Marketplace.
you checked my
You knew
wallet? I
all
have
this
total.
stuff.
Yeah, look. I mean, fact check. Like, look at my wallet. I haven't stacked anything lately. Like for 12 to 24 months, you will see that. So, like, I mean, make your homework,
So
I would say.
at what time did you know you were going to start Stacker the marketplace and it was going to be integrated into Veve? Did you stop buying at that point?
Yeah, pretty much.
So
I
you
was
had your
like,
supply before you even made the deal with the company
yes.
in the back end. And then they gave you the deal to be the marketplace, the third party, and you
Yes.
already have a huge supply.
So let's just put some numbers on it. I probably have invested 99% before I knew that Stacker is going to become a marketplace.
You're the only ones who will
So
be able to talk to them about this. So
if
the deal happened with you. That's
Yeah.
it doesn't make sense that you buy all this stuff and then behind the scenes, the only person who knows that you're about to have a marketplace is you and Veve. That doesn't make sense. That doesn't add up.
I'm not sure. So look, it's public. You can see my wallet, and I haven't stacked a lot. Also
But
knowing that I built a
we can't see your
marketplace.
conversation that you had with Veve to become the marketplace. You're not understanding what I'm saying. I'm saying
Do you want a transcript when I met David in person and we shook hands, or how do you picture that?
I do not trust the relationship and deal that y'all have made. I don't trust it at all. That's what I'm saying. I believe that it would make that you knew way before this. I'm insinuating that y'all they kept self-custody from us from going to any other marketplace because they knew they were going to give it to you. And then they went quiet for a year and a half to let everybody speculate about what was going on while you built it.
Immutable is just very, very difficult. Have you seen OpenSea integrating with Immutable?
For one, immutable is not a blockchain. That's probably what the problem is.
It is. But anyway, so OpenSea is for a
Immutable is
reason.
a protocol that does not link to the blockchain besides data that is given to them once in a while to say this is the information that happened, but it doesn't say none of the nothing transfers on the blockchain. Everything happens in a server.
I think that's something else you're now complaining about, but anyway, OpenSea is not on it doesn't use Immutable, therefore it's not easy for other marketplaces to add Veve collectibles. How's that?
It's because they're not NFTs. They're not NFTs with any protocol to add it to any marketplace out there. That's why we're not anywhere else. And that's why you built what you built, because you knew they were not going to let us out. Because they didn't tell us we weren't going to be out for a year and a half after they were advertising that that's exactly what we're going to do when we go to IMX. Everybody knows it. And the influence could play this game like it didn't happen. Every single one of you could play the game. But this is exactly the trail of events.
I think I'm not following for.
Everybody knows what I'm talking about. I think you're just feigning ignorance right now.
Well,
No.
I do remember it back then. I do remember that that we were told that we were going to be able to remove our collectibles as soon as the IMX, as soon as the immutable transfer happened. I don't really know how that's going to be Dr. Profit's fault, but
I'm not saying that his fault. What I'm saying is in the background, they made a marketplace for Veve knowing we weren't going to give self-custody and not telling us about it after they advertised that we were getting it. To me, that's fraud. And they did it at the height of a market. And they knew that if they would have told anybody there was no self-custody, everything would drop to zero. Everything did drop to zero over a slow decline over the last 2 years, because they decided to go quiet and only talk about the things they love and only talk to the people that caused them as fans, looked at them like they were gods. It was crazy watching it. I'm a holder of Veve stuff. I'm a holder. I'm actually in the top class of this thing. And everybody acts like everybody's happy with it, but we're not. That's why there's so much FUD. That's why there's so much conversation. And if the influencers would have just spoken up for everybody there, we would have had a better shot of what's going on. But now, look, all collections going to zero, all of them. And then you got people happy about it because they could buy more. Off the backs of everybody else who thought this promise and this thing that was going to happen was going to happen. And it's crazy. Crazy.
So what about the price of Omi? Do you think it's going to go up, though, now that we can buy NFTs on Stacker?
No, there's no reason to buy Omi. Why would anybody want to put their liquidity into a place they have to ask permission to take it out of? That doesn't make sense.
I see your point. Yeah, I wanted to start this space out with the negative and kind of go into the positive rather than ending on the negative. But I do see your point. I don't think it's, I doubt it's Dr. Profit's fault. I know that there was a lot of people that were pretty unhappy with some of the choices that Veve made, but I just don't want to attack anybody personally. I doubt it was Dr. Profit's fault. I know he's building things in the space. Anybody else have a...
I'm not here to blame anybody. I'm not even trying to be this heated. I wanted to answer questions and have conversation about it. But what I listened to while I was waiting to be requested was everybody talk about what the great things that are happening, yet they know the lies that have happened, and nobody wants to discuss it as part of the history of what's going on here. And it drives me crazy.
What was the great things we were talking about? I mean, here's the thing. You're going to accuse us of nobody paid me to be here. Veve did not pay me to be here. Anytime Veve has, let's say, given me a collectible or something, my streams say sponsored. It's not hidden, but I can tell you they're not paying me right now. And I have certainly said bad things about Veve. And I was very clear when, I've done stuff with them that I'm not keeping my mouth shut. If there's something that I think is bad, I'm going to say it. But what I won't do is attack people personally. I think that's what you're doing to Dr. Profit. Now, I understand that
y'all can get over that. I'm not attacking anybody.
Okay,
I'm going to be quiet, but I'm not attacking anybody. I'm just stating that the stage of events that have happened with his marketplace and Veve. That's not accusing anybody of anything besides a business deal that everybody who was a holder of these assets should have known about from the beginning when we thought we were going to all these other places on the blockchain. That's
Well,
what I'm
you did
stating.
accuse him of knowing stuff and not saying anything, so that is a bit accusatory, but yeah.
But that people making business deals in the background are going to know things that people don't know about. So of course he's going to have information that is unavailable to anybody else because he's making the business deal. It's not an accusation. That's just how it works with business.
So is that your main gripe, though, is that it comes down to self-custody? You think that they withheld that on purpose?
I absolutely do. I think that market would have tanked if they would have said, well, for the first point, they made a statement saying they told the IP themselves there was going to be no self-custody. And at the same time, they're telling us that there is going to be self-custody when we go to IMX. We had Disney we had the Disney license long before the last time they said we're about to have self-custody. So they knew we weren't going to get it, yet continued with the lie because the market was pumping.
You think we'll ever get self-custody?
Honestly, I don't even know if they're ever going to mint these things. So we can't have self-custody unless they actually mint them onto a chain.
I gotcha. Well,
Looks like we have another request. I don't know if you guys have the time or if you're interested.
yeah, I can't see that on my end. Yeah, go ahead.
All right, okay. Let's hear from Stephen D. Stephen, you are on if you would like to speak. Looks like you're muted. I'm not sure if maybe you're just figuring it out. Give him a second here. All right.
Yeah.
Let's see. Move on.
You got someone else looking?
Oh, there he goes. There he goes.
Hi, can you go ahead and hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now. Go ahead.
Oops. Oh, sorry about that.
That's all right.
Doing business and listening at the same time. Yeah, so this is a fun one to follow up behind. So first off, thank you for having me. Appreciate it. Second off, I guess I'm the second only person who is not employed by Veve next to Kyle Wilson, which is interesting for him to say. I mean, my background, I'm a jeweler. I'm just a simple collector who just enjoys collecting and you know, the opportunity to also making profit at the same time off of these. So yeah, so I find it kind of interesting how he said everyone's being paid by Veve, and as he was saying that, my wife was in the background laughing because she secretly wants to stab me all the time every time I add more gems to purchase more Veve collectibles. But no, I mean, I love the journey, and I'm one of the few that, you know, I see the business on both sides. Yes, you know, we've seen a lot of interesting things happening with the company going up and down, saying we're going to do this, but then we're going to do that, and go quiet. And if you ever go on, you know, my feed, you'll see me also, you know, commenting back and forth about that. You know, I think the company has done a lot of great things. They're one of the survivors of this big collectible market, and they're hands down the leader of it. I'm an investor in other of the crypto projects out there, but I mean, by far, Veve is really setting the pace for everyone else, and it's been growing pains. As any business owner knows, you know, there's growing pains when you're starting a company, and especially in a brand new space. I mean, there hasn't been any clarity or regulations and SEC, all of that. It's been so up and down. So you got to sometimes step back and look in Veve's point of view and think about how can we protect ourselves? How can we protect these IP? I mean, look, they have one of the biggest brands in the game, Disney and Marvel, under their belts. So for sure, they're going to be treading softly with everything that they do because they're setting the pace for everybody else.
That's so absolutely true. I have to totally agree with that.
And as far as Omi, I'm also a big investor in OMI as well. And yeah, it's been painful to see it go down, but the same with any other kind of investment. You dollar cost average in and you'll dollar cost average out. I mean, look, I come from in the beginning where my vault value in Veve was over 250,000 and I sold nothing. At that time I was buying. I mean, I'm one of the many out there. I'm sure I have a Steamboat Willie that I paid $8,000 for, and then it's worth what, $70 now. So it's how it goes. And yeah, now my wife heard that. Oops.
Uh-oh.
I love you.
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, they do have to be careful. I understand, but I mean, I don't know. I have negative and positive to say about them. I can kind of see your point of view on that, but I can also see other points of view. So I'm just kind of right in the middle on that. Anybody else have anything to say about that? I can't see on my end, Venus, if anybody's requesting.
Yeah, it looks like we've got Charlie Fisher and Mr. McOne. I'll let those both speak and then we'll probably call it a night. Y'all, while I have you here, if you don't mind just following all these speakers that we have on right now and myself as well, that'd be awesome. It looks like Charlie Fisher was the first to request, so I'm going to go ahead and let him on, and then we're just going to take him and Mr. McOne, and then I think we'll probably call it a night. So, Charlie, you are on now. Go ahead.
Hey, everybody. I've enjoyed listening on, and I'm at least the third person not being paid by Veve. And I know that many of you aren't, because I know you personally. And as far as investors or anything, it's kind of like, it's what it is, right? Like, let's just look at it from a standpoint of why did we get in here? Well, number one, I got into Veve at first thinking, man, I'm going to make some money. And I started collecting secret rares. And, right about, going on 4 years ago. And then I ended up giving them all away back when you could actually transfer things. And I left and stayed away for about a year and then came back and started collecting more secret rares. So I built up a comic stack, and then I started focusing on publisher dates, first and last mints, first appearances, and then the last several months, like maybe 9 months, I've started focusing on sub 100s. And at first it was just for the money, but then I fell in love with collecting. And so, when you collect sets and you like Star Wars is one of my favorites, for instance, and you start collecting 1977s and 77s, and you don't do it for the money. I'm not looking at it like, oh, this is just a big cash cow. But I've had so much fun collecting, getting to know the community. And yes, it's been disappointing. There's things that have been disappointing. But when you really love what you do and you really are a true enjoying the journey, some of the collections, like, it becomes a lot different than if it's just about the money and gain. But so the sub 100s have been my go-to and the last year, and to really enjoy that, and Disney and golden moments. And so there's no I don't think there's a hidden agenda. I don't think there's just, let's just take advantage of people. I really think there's a real sincere effort to want to see this work. Would I like self-custody? Yes. Is that something that I hope things like that come together for us? But I really appreciate Dr. Prophet. I really see him as a humble, legend that really, I'm thankful for people like Dr. Prophet, because it's, he's done a lot of things behind the scenes. I think that people don't really realize that he's part of whatever success we have, he's part of that success. And so thank you, Dr. Prophet. I've enjoyed Stacker. I hope to do a lot more with it in the future. I'm looking forward to Disney coming on and just love what you do. And if we're not, just move on to something that you're gonna enjoy, right? It's like life's too short to be all frustrated all the time. Move on to something you love and really want to do. But I appreciate the people on here, MC1, and many of you that are, that have just been a big part of my journey, and just to continue to go forward and look for the positive. But by all means, just love what you do and love collecting. So I'm grateful. I don't think I'm gonna ever catch Dr. Profit in Disney sub 100s or in Golden Moment sub 100s, but I'm having fun anyway.
Well, thank you,
Yeah, it
Charlie.
looks like we have a lot of positive reactions to what you just said, thanking Dr. Profit and complimenting him. So it looks like a lot of people are agree with you there on that.
Yeah, it just comes down to different perspectives because I also respect Ocean's perspective because it really depends on what you use the Vive app for. I think that some people they look at it as just trying to make money, and some people are like like you said, Charlie, it doesn't really matter about the money; they're just having fun. And so I can see why it would be two very different opinions on all that stuff. So I do respect everyone's opinion, though. You said somebody
That's
else
a
wanted
fair
to
point
talk?
you make as well, just depending on what goals you have and what you're using it for. Totally valid.
I hear you. Who else
I
wanted to
and
chime in?
I don't like the politics. I don't get into the politics. I, I come from a background where you try to see the gold in everybody and look for the gold in everybody. Yeah, the flippers, collectors don't like flippers. Well, I'm thankful for the flippers. I'm thankful for everyone that's involved. Just be fair, just be fair and have fun. But you can always get on some politic bandwagon. I make my own friends and my own enemies, and I try to be fair and have a good time. And so yes, there's some real challenges, and we've addressed some of those challenges. There's things I'd like to see um, improve. I'd like to see the transfers come back to where you're not getting sniped. That would be great. I'd like to see, the to be able to be um, to own the collectibles where we're not, and there's other opportunities that it can go to. So, but overall, I've had an amazing experience with Veve, and I'm not being paid by them to say anything I'm saying, but I'm really, I love Star Wars. I love being collecting sub 100s and 1977s and etc. But it's like that's something I enjoy doing. You try, how do you put a price on stuff like that, right? Just collect what you love to do and enjoy it, and allow people like the gentleman who spoke out very very strongly. It's good to be able to allow differences of opinion as well.
I agree.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for coming on, Charlie. We appreciate you.
Hey, no problem. Peace
We're
out.
gonna take just one more person as promised, and then I think we'll call it a night. Mr. McOne, you are on now. We'll give him a minute's connecting. And it looks like you just need to unmute yourself, and then you're free to speak. There you go.
Venus, thank you very much for this space. Hello to everybody who's here. Wanted to share a couple of thoughts. So I'm Mr. MC1. I've been on the Veve platform as well as many others since August of 2021. I have over 10,000 collectibles, more of a collector. I've sold a few things, but very little. Wanted to share a couple of thoughts. When you go back to the early days of Veve, when the market was flying, there were things that were selling for $80,000, $100,000, and transfers were open. And one of the things that was happening was that there were people who were essentially, just agreeing on certain prices off app. They were transferring things in the app for a low fee, and then there was money flying outside the app. And at the time, there were a number of challenges for. In general, what was happening was that the licensors like Marvel and others, Disney and stuff, were not making the aftermarket fees. yes, you can have a contract and everything can be, written into a contract. But if you have people, doing $1 deals, then you have a big problem. And so, Vivi made a very interesting decision at the time. It was sort of, Vivi got a lot of flack for it. As you said, they were the invaders in the space. Whether it's right or wrong is for people to decide, and maybe in the future we'll know whether it was right or wrong. But they decided to KYC. So everybody had to KYC, and then when you KYC, you also have to put in anti-money laundering processes in place. So they took out transfers. So, suddenly the app became very, very restrictive. What was the spirit of Web3 with kind of custody and ownership and, the whole freedom to do this, that, and the other. A lot of that went away. But, somehow Vivi got pushed into that because of a lot of nefarious activities. And, pretty much a lot of the different platforms followed with KYC, AML type things. Some of them loosened up sooner, with ownership and things like that. But, I would say that I'm very grateful to Dr. Profit for having, created Stacker. He's put his own money behind it. I think all this thing about him getting paid by Vivi is bullshit. This man has hired a team of people to build something. He's not paid. So he's built just an incredible app that enables us to now use OMI to buy things. It enables using, the Privy wallet, and there's a lot of more flexibility. This man has gone and worked with Vivi and with Disney and others to actually enable, Disney collectibles to be bought with OMI, which, if anybody knows how much effort and time it takes to go get that done. And, I would say one other thing, which is, to say that Dr. Profit knew and Vivi knew that there's going to be a third party marketplace back in the day is just ridiculous, because that was not even the plan. Vivi had its plan to do its own thing. This whole AML KYC thing came later. And, Dr. Profit at that time, he had already stacked a lot before any of this stuff. When it was a different environment, he bought 400, golden moment, what do you call it, partner statues and stuff, which was in tens of millions of dollars, way before, all this other stuff, AML, KYC, and all these things came. And then, the need for a third party marketplace happened much later, after all these restrictions were in place. And then people found that, hey, no, in the spirit of Web3, we need more flexibility. And so, if you see Dr. Profit's wallet, he has not bought anything from way back when. And even if he's bought one or two things, there's certainly no stacking. And I have personally approached Dr. Profit at different points in the last year and a half and said, hey, Dr. Profit, like, why don't you pick up more of these animated ones, or, these things are going to blah, blah, blah. And he's basically said, look, I'm working on Stacker. And so I cannot afford to do any any kind of major purchases or any such thing. And so this is a very high integrity gentleman here who has used his own money to build out a marketplace. And I'm respectful of what everybody else's point of view is, but some of those points of view are not informed in fact. And so anyway, I wanted to share that. Again, I love collecting. I'm very grateful to be in the space. Thank you, Venus, for hosting. And I want to say thank you to everybody else too. I know Foster's listening. OBL is here. Charlie's a good friend, as well, big collector. Dr. Strange is here. Kyle, obviously, and then Mr. Squibbs. He's another very big collector. So there's a lot of collectors here as well. But
Yeah, this is a
just
big
study the
room.
wallet, study the facts, and you can kind of take it from there.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for your input. We really appreciate you. And just as it was earlier with all the compliments, it looks like we had a lot of positive reactions to what you're saying about him. So if there's anything else from our speakers, I think we're gonna call it an evening. Anyone have anything? Also, you guys, for the last time, I'll just say it real quick. Thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate all our listeners. And if you will just hit us with a quick follow, that would be amazing.
Yeah,
So,
you
if any
guys.
of our guests have anything else to say, go ahead and let us know now. Otherwise, we're going to call it a night.
And I want to say thank you too. Thank you to Kyle, Dr. Prophet, Dr. Strange, Informant, just everybody who's in here. This is a pretty big room, a bunch of big names in the space. Thank you guys for being here. If you guys could all do me a favor, Venus actually worked really hard on this. If you can just click the link that's in her that's on her Twitter there, she has Bitcoin T-shirts in the dressing room. If you guys are interested, they're pretty cool. Even if you don't get any, go on there, check them out, and let her know what you think. She worked really hard on those too. So that's Coin Orca.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. But everybody, thank you very much. Anybody else want to say anything? Hey, you guys have a good night.
Thanks for having me. You know, it was a great space, man. I had a great time. Yeah, man. Want to shout out everybody for coming through, man. All the speakers, everybody that came through. And
Yeah, man.
that was it, man. Hopefully you do this again, you know?
Yeah,
Yes,
this is our first show.
absolutely.
This is the first show. I actually put the link to the YouTube that everything will be streamed on. If you guys just went on there and followed that YouTube, it would be huge. We really don't have many subscribers yet on there. And like I said, check out Venus's Bitcoin T-shirts. You might like them. Thank you, guys. We really appreciate it. Thank you, Venus.
Yes, no
Thank you,
problem.
guys.
Y'all have a great night. We will see you next time, and we will take some more guests and people who want to call in as well next time. So thank you everyone for joining. Y'all have a great night. We'll see y'all
Thank you,
later.
guys.
Bye bye.
Thank you.